Hello there and welcome to Shuttlebay 4. Yes, this week we discuss quite possibly one of the most divisive episodes of Star Trek ever, Subspace Rhapsody.
I did hear a bit of chatter just then in the background. Some people may be complaining about this episode. I can't quite remember the one that we're going to be watching.
Yeah, that'd be me complaining about this episode, yeah.
It was a sort of whiny noise that just gets you right at the back of the ear, you know.
In the last meeting, we talked about a Discovery episode. So we did some New Trek finally. So it was only good and proper that we did another New Trek episode. And standalone episodes are always best for this, although Strange New Worlds has a lot of standalone episodes. But I suggested Subspace Rhapsody. And I know a lot of people groaned at that. So as Rashid has, I think I said before, if we all like the same things, it will be boring. And a lot of people really don't like this one. So I'll kick off with Subspace Rhapsody and then I'll listen to what you guys say. So this might sound like a bit of a tangent, but there's loads of YouTubers out there that do reaction videos, you know, where they watch Star Trek and react to it. I'm not a huge fan of those because it always feels like people just overreacting to stuff. I don't know about you, but when I'm watching something that's hilariously funny, my reaction is usually like this. Whereas, like, they're watching Star Trek and they're like, "Oh my god, no!" And it's like, it just doesn't feel authentic. Like, but there's a YouTuber I was watching the other day who doesn't do reaction videos. She just talks about Star Trek. She's called. I've made a note here because I'm terrible with names. Jessie Gender, that's it, Jessie Gender. And their videos are quite interesting. They normally involve a lot of socio-political stuff, which I like, because I like my Star Trek woke. I like my Star Trek to say something. I like it to challenge. And Jessie Gender is trans, and so talks a lot about, trans within Star Trek. And a lot of, newer Star Trek has dealt with a lot of trans stuff, which is good. And I replied to one of their videos because they did a review of Subspace Rhapsody. I didn't watch the video because I didn't want it to influence my thought. I like to just kind of focus on it myself. I will watch it after this, but I did reply to it and I put a comment on there saying that I cringe when I watch it. I find it really, really cringy. I think the concept behind it is so bad that it's almost offensive. It's just ridiculous. I really love the episode. I can't help it. There's just something about it that I really like. And this is probably one of, if not my most watched episode of Star Trek. And it only came out last year. I've listened to it in the car. I know Patrick is shaking his head.
Ignore the hate, Dan.
I'm dry heaving. This is bad.
You dry wine?
Dry heaving.
Now, the episode is full of auto-tune, right? Which is a bit off-putting because I think, I do think that I'm quite good at spotting auto-tune. I think my ear's quite well, tuned to it. And there's a lot of that in this. Anson Mount cannot sing.
The Starship Enterprise.
It reminds me of Pierce Brosnan in Mamma Mia.
Whatever happened to our love?
But it reminded me of that. Speaking of Pierce Brosnan, has anybody here got their Brosnan Pierce? But that's a really shit joke. I apologise. If you can laugh a bit, I'll just edit it in afterwards.
Good fall.
Yeah.
Just get on with it, for God's sake.
It's a musical episode, so obviously, this kind of lives or dies on the strength of its musical numbers. And I do genuinely think the musical numbers are really strong in this. I can certainly imagine a lot of the numbers in this being played on Elaine Page on Sunday on Radio 2, which is playing show tunes and things like that. Some of the performances maybe aren't quite so good, but those are maybe from people who aren't professional singers. And I think I kind of got the impression in the episode that there are one or two, well, definitely one person who maybe wasn't fully buying into it and loving it, just playing along. But I'm not going to mention any more about that because I think Brush will probably pick up on that later because I know he's mentioned that in the past. Now, Christina Chong, obviously, she is a singer. She's got albums out. She promotes them quite regularly. But for me, the best performer on this was Celia Rose Gooding, who plays Uhura. Honestly, I thought she was absolutely amazing. Now, she does come from a stage musical background, and I think it shows. I think whereas some of the other performances maybe sounded a bit enhanced, like the song that Jess Bush sings, which I think is a brilliant song, and I think she sings it brilliantly, but it doesn't sound very authentic. There's a little bit of tweaking going on to make sure that her voice matches it, I feel. But it's a great tune. I'm not knocking it. Whereas Celia Rose Gooding with her song, is it Keep Things Connected, Keep Connected? I should really have made a note of that before I jumped on. To me, that's the strongest song in the whole musical, and I think she performs it absolutely brilliantly. And it feels as though they knew that they had a bit of a gem with her, and they left her towards the end of the episode. It's like, listen, you think this has been good so far? Well, maybe not, Patches. But wait for this, and then bring out Celia Rose, and she'd like blast it out. And the final song in it as well is kind of like cheesy and all. Even reading the lyrics, I'm kind of like wincing. But again, I can't help but love it. The Enterprise one at the end. It's just absolutely superb. I'm not going to mention about the K-pop Klingons because I got a funny feeling other people will comment on that. So and have more interesting things to say about it than I have. So I do think the episode works really well as a musical. Like I said, I think the concept is really poor. I mean, for a start, it just makes no sense that all of a sudden everybody would hear the same musical track. It would just come from somewhere and everyone would perform to it, and the lyrics are already there and everybody rhymes it. So it just makes no sense, but I do love it. But this episode, I think, does deliver some really good stuff. Sam Kirk, by the way, the actor who plays Sam Kirk, I think is brilliant. I think in this episode he was really good as well. I can't really remember his singing so much, but he in that number I keep wanting to say 10 Forward, but in the bar where Jess Bush sings her big number, Nurse Chapel, he's kind of doing that do up thing, and he really seems to get into it. He's an actor who seems to really love it. Uhura got more character development in this episode than she did throughout all 3 seasons of TOS and all the films that she appeared in. Now, when we did the Voyager episode Flashback, if you remember, she was scripted to appear in that, but she refused it because it didn't really do much for her character. And I think that Nichelle Nichols would love Strange New Worlds and what's happened with her character. In particular, I think she would love this episode because, she likes singing and things like that. Yeah. And I do think that she would have loved this. It is nice to see that character actually get some development. And it wasn't just her, like Spock and basically everybody who sang in this. It gave a lot of background to their character, not just how they think and how they feel, which and music is a really good, conduit to kind of express that. But with Uhura's song in particular, she was talking about her parents and things like that. And it just feels that by the end of this episode, you know way more about these characters than you did at the beginning of it. And for me, that is a real bonus. So yeah, that kind of summarizes really what I've got to say about the episode. I'm not going to. In the past, I've made the mistake of making shit ton of notes and spending maybe like quarter of an hour talking about it, and I'm trying not to do that now. But I do have this weird internal dichotomy where part of me is thinking this episode is ridiculous. You shouldn't like it. It's just a ridiculous concept. It's offensive to Star Trek. It's offensive to science fiction. But a bigger part of me is like, do you know what? I just really, really love it. I enjoy it. I've listened to the soundtrack in my car and I've watched it a few times. I had a friend come round at the weekend who's not watched Strange New Worlds. I actually didn't put this episode on for him to watch because I wouldn't do that. I don't think it's a good introductory episode. I put something else on. But this just happened to come. This was left on and I just really enjoyed having it on in the background. And that's me spent. That's me done. Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. Before you wrap that up, and that was pretty good. Do you like musicals in general? Are you a Lloyd Webber fan, or is that?
I am. I am a musical fan. So, and when I'm in the house on my own, I normally bang something on like Phantom of the Opera, Jesus Christ Superstar, something like that, Evita, and I will sing along to it as long as I'm on my own.
You serious?
I'll sing along. Yeah, I am serious.
Yeah, fantastic.
Evita.
Evita, yeah. I went to watch Evita the other year at the Alhambra, and it's really bizarre. Well, it's really difficult when you watch a stage musical when you know literally every single lyric of every single song. So you have to kind of like, it's like, when you're a kid at school, it's like fingers on lips. You have to really stop yourself.
I mean, I think we see eye to eye. I just needed to know your view on musicals before you left it. Thanks.
Are you a musical fan, Patches?
What do you think?
Just based on what Dan said with his love of musicals, I, on the other hand, do not hate musicals of any kind. Shut up, Penfold. Yeah. However, that being said, I have grown to love this episode. Right?
Yay!
I know.
Captain, we've detected some sort of loose.
When I first saw it, the first time I watched it, I didn't like it because I thought, well, Star Trek don't do musicals. What are they playing at? This is a mockery. When I've watched it back several times, I've actually quite grown to love it. Although I've seen the episode several times, I listened to the songs while I was out Saturday. I think by far the first and last songs are probably the better ones. But saying that, I mean, it was a ridiculous premise. It didn't make a great deal of sense when you really think about it and all the stuff that Trek has done before. I think that episode was essentially a bit of fun. Wasn't taking itself seriously for that one, and it was just a laugh. And I think once you then look at it for what it is in that respect, you then start to appreciate it. And you could see that, although, as Dan said, Anson Mount, not the greatest singer, and that was more computer than Anson himself, I think.
He's more machine now than man.
Some of them were having more fun than others. And what you've got to bear in mind also, with regards to the quality of the singing, is that these guys weren't necessarily hired to be in a musical show. They were never interviewed or auditioned for their ability to sing, because Trek doesn't sing. I think Ethan Peck did well in that episode to sort of keep it Vulcan, but also being affected by it like everybody else. I wasn't a great fan of his song, but it was better than, like, Christina Chong's. That for me was up and down like a yo-yo. Not to mention Una and Jim's song. That was really weird as well. It's almost like he was singing along and all of a sudden she'd come out with an extra word here or there that didn't seem to fit the tune. But by and large, I enjoyed it for what it was. It didn't take itself seriously. It was a bit of fun, and in that context, I enjoyed it. I'm so glad this is being recorded, because you lot have now all got video record of the fact that I like it. So I enjoyed it.
The production value is really nice. The visuals are superb. The sets are great. My favourite set on Strange New Worlds is the sick bay. It's well lit, and the medical uniform is the best. I mean, it starts off really, really well, and then Spock breaks out into singing. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't finish watching it today. I couldn't do it a second time round. It's so hard to watch. I'm not really a massive fan of musicals. Like, I expected special guest star this week to be like Barry Manilow or Michael Ball or something cheesy like that. And it was...
Oh, I would love to see Michael Ball on it. One step at a time.
One step at a time.
Eurovision, yeah.
Eurovision, yeah. This is the Eurovision of Star Trek. Absolute shit. The songs for me were a mixture of really cheesy West End stuff coupled with the Beach Boys. Sounded like the Beach Boys to me. That God Only Knows What I'd Do Without You, and then it echoes and repeats, and lazy songwriting. And Christina John's voice is amazing, and she does carry the episode quite well. I know I'm a big fan of Christina Chong. She kind of saves Strange New Worlds for me in that respect, but this episode was just hard to watch. It was said today, did they run out of ideas for episodes? It's a waste of an episode. There's precious few episodes per season, and we've had to go to this. I love the costume, I love the hair, and I love the fact that everyone looks like they enjoy. Anson Mount didn't enjoy himself. The plot holes were huge, as Dan said, even as much as, it's an emotional breakdown when you sing, and it's your emotions that make you, they overwhelm you and make you reveal these secrets. Then how did Spock get so caught up in that? Someone that's, got such a grip on his emotions, but he breaks out. He should be actually the acid test. He should be the one that's immune to it. Like Data in the Next Generation, no one's immune to it.
Patches, that's the power of song. Sheer power, sheer power of the song.
Writing and just an episode that I could have done without.
Sorry, Patches. On the whole Spock getting involved, right? You say he's supposed to have control over his emotions, but the previous episode, you see he struggled with that massively. So in that respect, on that singular point, I don't think it's a great stretch that he got caught up in it as well.
The plot was ridiculous, I've got to say. I agree with everything you said there, basically. But I love this episode so much. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It shouldn't have worked, but it worked. I can't explain it. I like musicals. I've been to watch Mamma Mia, Wicked, so I like musicals, but I never thought a Star Trek musical would ever work, and it was amazing. I loved it. Obviously, yes, I agree with some of you. Some of the singing weren't great, but Celia Rose's voice is out this world, just like breathtaking. I loved her performance. Huge Christina Chong fan. I loved her performance. Loved her singing as well. Antaman, bless him, he tried his best, but not a good voice. All the singing was great. The way they worked it together was brilliant as well. I really, really, really enjoyed the episode. I watched it lots of times. I listened to the sound on Spotify all the time as well. My kids know the songs as well. I'm hearing so many times. My kids know the songs as well. So I got nothing but praise for it. Nothing but praise for it.
So you've got your kids singing along in the car then, Rashid, yeah?
Yep.
Oh, one thing I actually just mentioned that Patchy said, you're about Spock. Because I've tried to kind of reconcile like Spock being emotional because it doesn't really seem to work with the Spock that I know. But it feels like this in Strange New Worlds is the making of Spock, that he is maybe quite emotional, and is the failure of his relationship with Nurse Chapel causes him to think. And to be honest, I think we've probably all been there at some point where we've been in a relationship and maybe you are feeling quite hurt and you kind of wish you could switch your emotions off. And he is at that point, he's like, fuck it, I'm going to go full Vulcan now. I'm just going to, stick to all that, going to switch my emotions off. And that's his way of dealing with it. And it just continues through then.
I agree as well. I like the fact that you're seeing him grow. So it is an earlier Spock that we've experienced on screen and is that period of his life. So it is seeing him struggle with his human side. But I think on top of what you said, Dan, in like Nurse Chapel kind of splitting with him, turns him into the Spock we're going to know. That actually leads from the episode where Boimler comes in and actually he tells Nurse Chapel, doesn't he, like, what are you doing to Spock kind of thing. Spock of the future is not supposed to be like this.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that that's going through the episodes right up to the point that I thought what this episode brought to it was you could see Spock kind of switching off and going, oh, okay then. Can't be like that. I'm not going to be like that. And what did he say? Something about not being true to his core values.
Yeah.
And so I felt there was an arc there between those two episodes as well.
I've betrayed my core philosophy.
And even when he's singing, it is, coming from a place of emotion. His delivery is quite flat, and that's not a criticism of his singing. I mean, it deliberately so. It's like he's singing and he's like, what's going on? I guess he's kind of the first one to start singing, I think. I remember I wish my brain didn't lose names, because this is the name that I'm embarrassed to not remember. The guy who played Spock.
Oh my god! Nobody tell him. He's got to.
No, don't tell him. Don't be welcome to it. And because I do know the name. God, Jesus Christ, it is right. We've got William Shatner. And then you've got Leonard Nimoy. Leonard Nimoy. There we go. Leonard Nimoy. Because Leonard Nimoy himself said about Spock in some sort of interview that Spock is not playing Spock as emotionless. He's playing Spock as someone with emotions who's trying to keep them, suppressed. And I got that from Ethan Beck in this one. Obviously, he is being emotional, but more emotional than he would be. But you felt as though he was really trying to kind of, push them down. He wasn't like, oh, I'm the X. It was it was a bit more... As subdued as you can get in a musical number, I think.
Not as subdued as Dr. Mbenga.
Do you want to go next then, Brush? Because I want to hear you talk about Mbenga.
Dr. Mbenga, I love Dr. Mbenga so much, but he was shit in this episode. He was awful. That man was so awkward on screen. Love him. I felt really sorry for him, actually.
It's like the thought, do you know what? He's really not enjoying this. How can we turn the thumb screws a bit more? I know. We'll get him dancing down a corridor.
But did you see him? No, he wasn't even doing that. That dance you just did was so much better than what he managed. He literally hopped a little bit, like he didn't know what to do. And my thought of that was, and you were telling us that's the best cut you could get. How many tries did you give him?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah.
Get. Oh,
take 36. Oh, that'll do.
Because I love him so much. When I first saw the episode, I was at home, actually. I did try to watch it at home, and I watched it and was interested that it started with talking, because I thought it was going to be a full musical. So I did literally think it was going to be from start to finish musical. And as soon as Spock started talking, I switched it off. Something in my brain went, oh my God, and I had to switch it off immediately. And then the next time I attempted to watch it was a Dan's, where I felt kind of rude to demand that this doesn't get shown in front of my face. My reaction was it was very similar to Patch's. Very similar. And this is the first time I've gone in to watch this episode again and to even try, because I was like, I don't really want to bother. And I tried to go in with a very open mind. And I was pleasantly surprised that I didn't hate it like I did. And I didn't cringe so much when Spock started singing that I couldn't go any further and had to turn the TV off. But it did jar me. It was like really jarring for Star Trek to have a musical that I like musicals, by the way, so I am a fan of musicals and I've seen lots, but it didn't work for me properly. It just didn't. There were certain parts of it that did, and you had certain singers, like you've all said, that did stand out. So Celia, and it was obviously really clever to give her the kind of a lead role in this episode, because it's kind of started with her and ended with her. I absolutely loved the bit in the beginning before the singing, I think, where she was on the comms and comms wasn't working as it should, so she had to be doing it all manually, and I thought that was really interesting to see that facet of what she has to do as a job. She was really strong in the episode, acting and singing, obviously, because she's from that background. Number one, her singing was dreadful as well. Like, she was terrible. And you could tell, I don't know if she's got any stage background, but I don't think she'd get a job ever again. Anson Mount as well, you've mentioned. Again, he was shit. He was like really bad in the episode. I thought his acting was bad as well. I think there's, what did I mention? The first song that you're on the bridge, and he's the one that they've given the role to kind of just look at them with aghast or surprise. And it was like, God, how can you overact so much? This is an awful scene. I felt bad watching him because it was that terrible. I do like musicals, so the one thing I'll say, the bit that I missed from it all was any kind of choreography, some really good choreography from it. It felt like the scenes, the singing.
Wait, sorry, Dr. Mbenga hopping the corridor. What's wrong with that?
It was other scenes where you had whatever was going on with the singing. The choreography could have been so much more. A musical is, part of it, as much as singing, is the choreography. So I think they missed a trick there, and again, it might be that they were working with actors that couldn't necessarily do that well.
Okay, you mean. Apart from the Jess Bush number, that was the only one that had a big kind of choreography.
It kind of did, but even if you were looking at them dancing in the room, they weren't really dancing. There was like, I was watching out for it in that scene because there was a lot of people, and then in the last scene, obviously you had the one bit that was good was in the last scene. I think it opened with the five guys or people in red walking down the corridor, and they were all doing a particular dance together, and that was like what I expected from all of it, if I'm honest. I expected some of that dancing throughout all of it, and that's what was missing for me. So early on, Dr. Mbenga actually says, I don't sing, and I was like, yeah, you can say that again. You really don't sing.
And I do not sing.
I'm not fussed on the La'an story with Kirk. All of that bit. I feel like her character, like, it's gone from being quite a strong character, and I understand now she's might be trying to find her emotions as well, because she is that type of character that didn't show any, but they're not doing it in the right way for me. She feels like all of a sudden become quite a weak character, whereas I dislike her a bit more than on the ship. Like, engineering, it pisses me off so much, engineering, because it makes no sense. Like, the background is vast and humongous, and there doesn't seem to be a lot going on. And then the one bit I hate the most is the obvious Doctor Who TARDIS console in the middle. I hate that. It's like any other design, but it is such an iconic design. I don't understand why they even went near that. I like the end. The end was quite funny, where you had Spock coming in hungover and literally flopping into his chair. That was quite funny. And then they went to Uhura to have a little ending. So overall, I surprised myself that I didn't come out of it hating you all for making me watch it. But I didn't. But I don't think it will be one I'll rewatch, like you, Dan, have become obsessed and are singing it in the car. You people who sing it in the car, I don't think it's right, and I think you should stop. So, it is interesting that there is so much love for it, or so much hate for it.
Were you aware that you were watching a TV program all the way through? Like, were you?
I was time, the time I watched it with Dan, I couldn't really get past what was happening, so I couldn't watch the episode. And this is probably the first time then that I've watched the episode properly and got what they were trying to explain to us through Spock's mega psychobabble as well in this episode. Like Spock in the beginning was talking gibberish to the point I think Jim Kirk went, yeah, whatever kind of thing. We don't understand what you were talking about. I will admit as well, even the Klingons make me laugh this time, which is before I wanted to smash the TV.
Why you only calling us when you got your drama?
It's funny how I've had a different reaction to it, because the first time I watched it, oh my God, I couldn't cope with that part. To be honest, everyone expected Klingon opera, so I think it was actually a clever twist to bring in K-pop.
The technobabble did go on a bit. The thing about, quantum flux and Heisenberg compensators and things like that was completely out of context. And I think it was trying to take the piss out of itself a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
People say about the technobabble and stuff, not just in this episode, but throughout. And a lot of people say they don't like it, but I don't know why. I love the stuff. I think it's brilliant.
No, I'm not saying I don't like technobabble at all. I'm not saying that. I will say Voyager it overused it far too much as a whole series. Voyager was terrible for that. But in this episode, and especially in the beginning or when Spock was trying to explain stuff, he used it crazily amount. You couldn't follow it.
Yeah.
Like it was
I did notice it.
And I don't know if they were doing that tongue-in-cheek as well.
A lot of people don't like it when they go into this technobabble. And whilst I agree with you on this particular episode, it was a little bit full on. I've always enjoyed that aspect of it, whether it be Next Gen or Voyager, up to the point where they ran out of shit to say and they just went nanoprobes.
I'm say I'm with Steve. I like the technobabble. It's part of the magic of Star Trek, the technobabble. And I know you weren't saying that you don't like it there. It was just in context of this episode, you didn't think it worked. I was maybe just taking the piss a bit. But I love the technobabble. I love the fact as well that a lot of it is grounded in science, and the stuff that is kind of fictionalized then gets retconned into science, because you get these technical manuals where people take these terms and kind of figure out the science behind it. And I'm not quite sure how accurate it is, but as long as there's an inkling of real science behind it, I like that. I like my science fiction to have science. I don't like it to be too whimsical, which I know is a bit ironic considering I really enjoyed this episode.
I'll tell you that the Next Generation really takes the science really seriously. So far as to when they're talking about the transporters and the quantum technology that they're using, they get down to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which makes it impossible to do. It's never going to happen. So they invent the Heisenberg compensator, which is used in this episode to get round that. And things with warp speed as well, where it's faster than light travel, it would take infinite energy. It can't happen. The warp bubble, where the ship isn't actually traveling, it's space bending. It's quite hard science in that science fiction.
I love that. It's brilliant. That is brilliant. And it's great watching it, because I love the idea. Like warp speed is just brilliant, especially the word warp, because it's folding space. And the great thing about Star Trek and the great thing about the science behind it is it feels as though it is always only just beyond our grasp, just. And that's what's great. It feels like just with a little bit more, with the right boffins on the case, we'll be there. We mentioned the Heisenberg compensator in one of the previous episodes, and it was like, oh, what kind of Star Trek fan doesn't understand the Heisenberg compensator? And after that episode, I immediately Googled the Heisenberg compensator, and I now do fully understand what it is. And it feels like a fleshed out universe that could exist. And to me, that's important with Star Trek. It has to... I wouldn't say it has to feel like it could exist, but the fact that it has felt like that, especially with TNG, that era onwards, I think is what sucked me into Star Trek. I was a teenager watching it, probably feeling like a bit of an outsider. As a lot of people are watching Star Trek, you feel like this is it. This is like the fucking future. It's a shame it's 300 years down the line. But part of you sometimes just think, what if it has actually happened and someone's gone back in time and just relayed? Even though I know that's a ridiculous idea, sometimes you can't help but think, well, maybe this all does happen.
The one episode that made me think like that the most was the Voyager episode when they go back to the 60s. It's a two-parter, yeah? But it kind of it's like there was a boom in technology, and it was like, where did that boom come from? It didn't seem natural.
Well, what happens is, after the Bell riots, we're going to overthrow capitalism, and then we start to build our space socialist utopia. It's been a long road.
No, don't do that.
Get involved.
And guess what? Gun breaks out into song.
Yeah. Get some lighters.
So I remember when it first was announced that it was going to happen, and I was dreading it. I really thought it was going to be awful, up to the point where I put the episode on, ready to go, first time, and I fell in love with it. It's just so much fun. I like musicals, but yeah, you've got to take it as it is. It's a bit of fun. I love all the techno babble. Obviously, I'm ex-Royal Navy, so I love anything. I don't understand half of it, but I love all the techno babble of it. The music, I love every single part. The one song I don't like is the one with Jim Kirk. I just don't get that one. That one's a bit cringe for me. I even like Anton singing that. I just think it's fun. Yeah, every little song I love. I love Spock's song.
I'm the X.
You can see where he's struggling with his humanity, so I think that explains that as it is. Definitely the Klingons. I do cringe at the Klingons, as in the look. The look is a bit 1970s disco type gold. But other than that, I can watch it again and again. I smile every time I put it on. I just smile all the way through it. It's just fun. It is quite interesting to put that one there just before the final, which is really dark and really gritty. I find that quite interesting why they've done that.
Wasn't the episode before this one the one where Dr. Manga stabs that fella?
Yeah, then it's this, and then it's the Gorn invasion. I just find it really bizarre how it just slots into there.
Whoa, spoilers! Spoilers!
We didn't mean Gorn. We meant magical unicorns from Mars.
Patches said something actually was, I think, a really good point, because he asked Brush, were you aware when you were watching this that you were watching an episode? And I know exactly what I meant, because if I get that feeling, normally that's a really bad thing. I am aware I'm watching an episode, and it is quite constructed and a bit contrived, but it still didn't take away my enjoyment of it, which just goes to show you power of music.
Power of music, yay!
Dee, did you watch it, and Jed? I can tell from the faces, right? Dee loved it, and Jed hated it. Is that right?
Opposite way around.
Opposite way around. Oh.
But I didn't hate it. I cried before we started watching it because I put it off for 6 days and it got to late Wednesday night and I was like, I've got to do this. And just go and rip the band-aid off, rip the bloody band-aid off. And then I was fine after that. Once I'd had a drink and got into I mean, I still don't like a few of the songs. They sounded a bit, I mean, if that's auto-tune, Jesus, are they deaf? A couple of the songs, I can't remember which the ones they were called, but a couple of them, especially with the ones with Anson Mountain, it grated on me a little bit because it just didn't sound natural. It didn't sound, you could tell it was produced, overly produced. You can tell when someone's singing from the heart, Christina Chong's song, and you can tell when someone's being overly produced and you can barely differentiate their voice from the vocals.
It's the staccato, isn't it, that you miss? It's the reverberation in the voice that gives away, because the tone is very flat and very long.
But did anybody notice that General Gargog was played by Hemma?
Brush said, everybody knows that. See? And everybody knew it, because I didn't know until somebody pointed it out to me.
Do you know what? I didn't know until you guys mentioned it earlier. So,
Dee, I think you deserve an oh my for that. Oh my.
Oh my.
Because not everybody knew it.
I did mind Uhura's vocals, but I think what it was with this, it sets Uhura, the character, up for the premise, the premise of her being a singer in the future. It gives you the insight into, oh, Uhura can sing. Oh, wow. She's got a lovely singing voice. And that's where it starts to take off with Uhura's singing prowess.
Terrified and overwrought to find what he will do.
But I was, like I say, I was enjoying Uhura's song, and then it took that break. It just took like a beat, like a beat stop, and then it kicked in again, and I was like, oh God, it sounds like the bloody X Factor final now. It's gone. It's gone too far for me now. What was everybody wink? What was the bit? I've put notes here. Everybody was winking. What? And what was
Is that a typo?
I don't know what I'm reading.
Did you really love this episode?
How much have you had to drink by this time?
A bottle.
Yeah,
a bottle of wine.
So nobody was winking, D. Nobody was...
Yeah, I got through it. And I will admit, I'm like Steve, the second time round was Ella better than the first for me. Jed just sat through it all the way through it laughing. He just didn't stop laughing.
Do you know what? I'm enjoying the fact that a lot of people are agreeing with points I've made. This doesn't usually happen because I'm usually in the minority.
Yeah.
So this is a weird feeling.
I haven't got a lot to say on the episode. I watched it grudgingly, and then by the end of it, I wasn't sad, I wasn't angry, and I wasn't mad that I watched it. It's not as bad as you thought it was going to be, really. Enjoyment-wise, 5 out of 6 out of 10. Just because some of the songs I thought.
So, what? I'm not familiar with that scoring mechanism. So 5 out of 6 out of 10.
5 out of 6 out of 10. 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. It's not going to be my favourite ever. I should love this episode. It is everything that I love. It is Star Trek. It is Glee. Do you know what I mean? It's musical theatre. It is everything I've got a massive passion about, and yet it just didn't float my boat.
The law of averages tends to suggest if you watch it 2 more times, you might end up loving it.
Steve,
2 more bottles of wine, more like.
You forced me to watch it this time. I'm not watching it again.
Oh, John Joe, you killer.
I just thought it was funny all the way through. It's not my worst episode. I've seen worse episodes than this.
Yes, but I mean, he was looking forward to it. He wasn't.
That's why I voted for it, and you made me feel it all week.
Good. Well done.
Because it's not the worst, but there's worse episodes out there than this. No, to quote the security officer who sings a song, guys, you're going to have to change your paradigm. It's the new.
I hate the word paradigm and anyone that uses it.
That intro just felt like a 15-minute long intro. It just felt so long. Then the credits.
I forgot about the intro and the outro. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh Lord!
Look at him rubbing. He's literally rubbing his hands together. Yes.
Come on, get back to review anyway. I'm listening to the. Well, it's not the worst episode in the world. That's ringing praise at the moment.
Go on then. Go on, Steve. I mean, Jed.
It's like when the Klingons start singing. I was crying because the build-up with the dead low voice, and then that to come out. I've seen it twice, and I laugh harder every time. It's not my worst episode. It's not.
Because Jed can stomach musical theatre. I've trained him well. It's took me ages, but he's all right now with sitting through a musical. I've got him into musicals.
Not my mum did that.
The good ones, not the shit ones that his mum watches.
But yeah, that's all I've got to say. It's not the worst. It's not the best.
Marie, don't know if you've got any comments on this one.
I mean, I've seen the episode a few times. It makes me cringe because it is all phony auto-tune shit. And but I was absolutely enthused when I saw the Klingon part. It was the way that it was like their own stage and all the colours, and I even put the words up. That's how sad I am, but I only enjoy that bit. I do like Ethan Peck's X song.
I'm the X.
Apart from that, it's a bit cringy.
Marie, you said you put the words on. You can admit it, you know. You had a Subspace Rhapsody karaoke. Is that what you did?
Yeah.
So I have a question then, right, Dan? And everybody, obviously, I haven't watched this, and apologies, work has been absolutely crazy, and unfortunately, I'm not even going to be in the country next week due to work, so I'm going to miss another bloody one. So no doubt you picked the best episode this week. But I'm a bit worried about this because, like you, I do like a musical. I am, despite saying this entire time I hate the whole thing, but I hate the sort of idea of the two worlds crossing, because Trek to me is it a good episode? The general consensus, is it worth a watch? Because I have genuinely been putting off watching it. I probably had a chance to watch it.
Are you going to watch it, though, as part of the series?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got to watch it because there's a lot of development in it. Like everyone said, it's like, it is jarring, and it'll be interesting to what you think of it when you do watch it.
But it is fun. if you go into it looking at it as it's just a bit of fun episode, then I think
I'm not sure it's that easy though. I'm not sure it's that easy because I tried, and as soon as it starts, you're either going to know you're going to either have to force yourself through it to get it, or you're going to enjoy it because it is. As soon as they start singing, you get this feeling. Or I did anyway. I think everyone did. It's like you can either go with it or can't. Because I turned it off at that stage.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Even the first time I watched it, when I was you, Brush, I was cringing so much, I was kind of wanting to push it away.
Because there is still a lot of development in it, definitely. All the characters do go through a little bit of development, and you see all the relationship characters have that development. So it's kind of necessary to watch,
But Steve said, it is one of those, if you hate it, you hate it, right? But if part of it you kind of enjoyed, I think with subsequent viewings you kind of become desensitized to the things that maybe put you off, and I found that I can put it on now and I do cringe a bit, but only a bit.
So on my first watch I did hate it, but my second watch I've managed to not hate it and then actually watch the episode, because I think the first time you watch it, it's so jarring, you kind of forget what's happening or you don't get it, and then the second time you're more concentrated on seeing the episode. So 2 watches I guess, and never again. That's good.
Interesting, yeah. I give it a bash then, because especially because I'm doing the watch through with my missus, and she loves musicals. I like Star Trek episodes, and I know that's a bit controversial because I come across quite serious sometimes, but I love stupid episodes. I absolutely love stupid episodes, like the "Sir, I protest, I'm not a merry man" still makes me chuckle a little bit when I think about it every single time.
I protest, I am not a merry man.
So I'm all for that, yeah. So maybe I won't be so negative.
It'd be interesting to hear what you think.
If you watch it first, and then by the time you get to it through the series, you'll be able to sit through it.
Is that going to mess the series up though? Because I've seen season 1 before my missus decided she wanted to, watch it with me, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, now I'm gonna have to stop watching this. But she watches this on YouTube as well, so that's me outed there.
Hello, John Joe's missus.
Hello, John Joe. You wouldn't believe the stuff he said about you that was edited out.
I actually think this is probably the most polarizing episode we've got. You always get episodes where people like them or don't like them, but I can't think of another episode where the people who hate it so much they can't bring themselves to watch the full episode, and those who liked it literally listen to the soundtrack in the car and have watched it several times. Bearing in mind, this isn't an episode that first aired 10 years ago or 30 or 50 years ago. This aired literally, I suppose, months ago, really. And yet a lot of us have seen it several times over. I know one of the times is probably, to watch for this, but forced, yeah. Speaking of Pierce Brosnans, has anybody here got their Brosnan pierced?
Oh, God, blimey.